One of the most gripping movies I've ever watched was a film starring Mel Gibson, Braveheart. It's a story of the Scottish freedom fighter William Wallace, who led the Scots' first war of independence against the King of England in the 13th century. Medyo bata pa ako noon when I watched it. And the last scene was something I will never forget. Spoiler alert, Wallace experienced a brutal death in the end. But his death also marked the start of the long struggle for Scottish independence from England. His cry for freedom echoes even up to this day. The way they presented the last part was very moving. As the film ended, my heart was pounding and my eyes were transfixed on the screen as the credits were scrolling up. The film caused me to think deeply about what it was I was willing to die for. As we remember the suffering and death of Jesus this Good Friday, I am reminded how much more powerful, how much more significant the death of Jesus is to my life. It reminds me not only what I am willing to die for, but what I am ready to live for the rest of my life. After the Last Supper of Jesus and his disciples, after Judas betrayed Jesus to the Jewish religious leaders for 30 pieces of silver, Jesus was soon picked up by the Jewish authorities and was subjected to trial. You could say it was a rigged trial. It was done not to determine his innocence or guilt. They railroaded the process leading to his crucifixion. After being flogged, tortured, humiliated, after being forced to carry his cross to the place of execution, his hands and feet were nailed on the cross. And there, hanging on the cross, Jesus suffered the most painful and inhumane execution known in the Roman world. At the last moment, all he said was, "It is finished, Tetelestai." And he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Tetelestai was a common word used by people during the first century. When a servant finished his chores, he informed his master, Tetelestai. When the temple priests have done their work, when they have completed the sacrifice, they declared, Tetelestai. When an artist has completed his masterpiece, he stood back to look at his work and said, Tetelestai, it is finished. And it was indeed finished. Jesus' brief human life on earth was finished. His ministry in the world as a human was done. His suffering on the cross had ended. But beyond that, his service for the Father had been accomplished. He had given his ultimate sacrifice. He offered his life as a ransom for many. His blood was shed for the cleansing of sin. He condemned sin in the flesh. Satan had been rendered powerless so that people were set free from the power of sin and death. His work as mediator between the Father and man, by his sacrifice on the cross, had been completed. And this was done so that those who believe, who put their faith in him, those who submit their lives under the rule of Jesus, may be saved and be given the right to be called children of God. And we are called to live our lives in the service of his kingdom. As the kingdom of God breaks out in this fallen world, who do you consider Lord? I invite you to embrace the finished work of Jesus. As you reflect today on what you're willing to live and die for because of the finished work of Jesus, remember, faith matters too.